Stop right there. Before you explain yourself one more time, ask yourself why you are defending what God already assigned. Ask yourself why you are standing before people like a defendant when heaven has already spoken like a king. Ask yourself why you keep presenting evidence to people who were never present when God gave you the instruction. There comes a moment when explanation is no longer clarity. It becomes weakness. It becomes fear dressed in language. It becomes a spiritual leak. You are not explaining because they need understanding. You are explaining because you want approval. And that is dangerous, because the moment you invite people to vote on what heaven commissioned, you have made the crowd a committee over your calling. Listen to me carefully. You do not need human permission for a divine assignment. If God has made it clear, their confusion does not cancel it. Their silence does not cancel it. Their disagreement does not cancel it. Their inability to see what God showed you does not cancel what God said to you. The problem is not that they do not understand. The problem is that you think their understanding is required before your obedience can begin. That is a lie from the pit of hell designed to make destiny dependent on applause. The enemy knows that if he cannot stop God from speaking, he will try to stop you from obeying. And one of the ways he stops obedience is by making you addicted to being understood. So you keep explaining, you keep defending, you keep rehearsing your motives, you keep trying to prove that you heard God. But every unnecessary explanation drains conviction from the assignment. Do not misunderstand me. There is a place for wise counsel. There is a place for correction. There is a place for accountability. But counsel is not the same as permission. Accountability is not the same as approval. Wisdom is not the same as fear. You must know the difference. Counsel sharpens obedience. Permission seeking postpones it. Counsel makes you stronger. Commentary makes you unstable. Permission waits for applause. Obedience moves when purpose is clear. Permission says, I will go when they understand me. Obedience says, I will go because God sent me. Permission looks for open doors from people. Obedience builds with the instruction God gave. Permission is nervous until the room agrees. Obedience is settled because the manufacturer has already defined the function. You were not created to spend your life explaining your assignment to people committed to misunderstanding your obedience. You were not born to shrink your calling into language small enough for fearful people to approve. You were not designed to negotiate with insecurity. You were designed to obey God, develop what He placed in you, and produce fruit that makes argument unnecessary. The need to be understood can become the hidden enemy of destiny. It feels innocent, but it is not always innocent. Sometimes it is pride. Sometimes it is fear. Sometimes it is the old wound that says, if they do not approve of me, I cannot move. But I came to tell you that season is over. You are not waiting for a jury. You are not begging for a signature. You are not standing outside your own assignment, asking strangers to unlock a door God already opened. If this is already confronting something in you, stay with it. Do not resist correction just because it touches your insecurity. Receive it with humility. Let God expose the place where you've been calling fear wisdom and calling delay patience. And if you know this word is for you, put it in the comments, not as performance, but as declaration. I choose to believe God about my assignment. Because from this moment forward, you must understand this clearly. What God authorized does not need to be explained into legitimacy. It needs to be obeyed into fruit. Now let me show you where the trap begins. The trap is not always in their question. The trap is in your need to answer. Sometimes people ask you one small question, and because fear is still sitting in your heart, you give them your whole blueprint. You explain the dream, you explain the pain, you explain the prophecy, you explain the timing, you explain the tears. You explain why you started, why you stopped, why you moved, why you waited, why you are building, why you are changing. And by the time you finish explaining, you are not stronger, you are exposed. Stop calling it communication when it is really fear of rejection. Stop calling it humility when it is really fear of being misunderstood. Stop calling it honor when it is really fear of disappointing people who were never assigned to carry the weight of your obedience. Some of you are not explaining because God told you to explain. You are explaining because silence makes you uncomfortable. You are explaining because you think if you say nothing, they will call you arrogant. Let them. Silence is not arrogance. When God has already given instruction, silence is discipline. Silence is government. Silence is the ability to keep sacred things sacred. Now, do not misunderstand me. Accountability is necessary. Every wise person needs counsel. Every serious assignment needs sharpening. But there is a difference between accountability and approval. Accountability says, let me help you obey God with integrity. Approval says, convince me before you move. Accountability strengthens the assignment. Approval tries to own it. Counsel sharpens you. Commentary suffocates you. Counsel comes with responsibility. Commentary comes with opinions. Counsel is carried by builders. Commentary is carried by spectators. You must learn who is qualified to speak into what God placed inside you. Everybody who loves you is not qualified to lead you. Everybody who knows your name is not qualified to judge your calling. Everybody who has access to your history is not qualified to interpret your future. Some people are not against you. Hear me carefully. They are not wicked. They are not enemies. They are simply too small in perspective to authorize what God placed inside you. They can love you and still limit you. They can care about you and still counsel you from fear. They can mean well and still misunderstand God's design. This is why you must stop handing sacred blueprints to people who only know how to inspect flaws. Builders need blueprints because builders understand process. Builders know that a foundation does not look like a finished house. Builders know that dirt, noise, delay, and unfinished walls do not mean failure. But critics do not need blueprints. Critics need access. Critics want enough information to examine, question, weaken, and compare. And when you give a critic your blueprint, do not be surprised when they treat your holy instruction like a public inspection. Your assignment is not common property. Your calling is not a community project for every insecure voice to edit. When you explain too much to the wrong audience, you give unqualified voices emotional ownership over your obedience. Now their opinion starts traveling with you. Their doubt sits in your car. Their fear enters your prayer life. Their questions interrupt your focus. You begin to obey God with their face in your mind. That is bondage. That is not wisdom. That is not honor. That is slavery to human approval dressed up as being considerate. You cannot defend a calling to people who cannot carry it. If they were not present when God formed it, if they have no grace to nurture it, if they have no faith to stand with it, why are you giving them authority to weaken it? Protect the assignment. Guard the blueprint. Respect the process. Let builders build with you. Let counselors sharpen you. But stop giving critics access to the womb of your destiny. What God placed inside you is too valuable to be handled by every voice that asks a question. Now here is the foundation. Your manufacturer determines your function. Not your family, not your critics, not your friends, not the people who remember who you used to be. The purpose of a thing is never decided by the people looking at it. The purpose of a thing is determined by the one who designed it. And if God is your creator, then God is your definer. You are not random. You are not an accident. You are not some social experiment waiting for public approval. You were designed with intention, formed with purpose, and released into time with an assignment already attached to your life. Before people had an opinion about you, God had a purpose for you. Before they knew your name, heaven knew your function. Before they saw your flaws, God saw your design. Stop letting observers redefine what only the manufacturer has the authority to explain. If a product is misunderstood by the customer, you do not ask the customer to rewrite the manual. You go back to the manufacturer. Why? Because the maker knows why the thing exists. The maker knows what was placed inside it. The maker knows its capacity, its limits, its design, its intended environment, and its proper use. So why are you letting people who did not make you tell you what you cannot become? Their confusion does not cancel your clarity. Their ignorance of your design does not invalidate your function. Just because they do not understand the burden does not mean the burden is false. Just because they cannot feel what you feel does not mean God did not place it there. Just because they are uncomfortable with your obedience does not mean your obedience is wrong. Some people call strange what heaven calls specific. Some people call dangerous what God calls necessary. Some people call pride what is really conviction. And this is where comparison becomes dangerous. You keep measuring your assignment by someone else's comfort. Stop it. Your fingerprint is different. Your history is different. Your capacity is different. Your burden is different. Your pain taught you things their comfort never revealed. Your process developed muscles their ease never required. Your tears gave you sensitivity their opinions cannot understand. So why are you trying to fit your obedience into the size of their peace? You cannot borrow another person's measurements for your divine assignment. Saul's armor did not fit David because David was not manufactured for Saul's method. David had to defeat his giant with what God trained him to use in private. Hear me carefully. What looks small to others may be the very tool God designed for your victory. What they dismiss may be your weapon. What they mock may be your evidence. What they do not understand may be the exact place where your authority is being formed. That is why imitation is an insult to design. When you copy someone else's assignment, you accuse your creator of making a mistake with yours. When you beg to be accepted by people who were never assigned to define you, you shrink the originality of God inside your life. The enemy of destiny is not always failure. Sometimes the enemy of destiny is imitation. Sometimes it is comparison. Sometimes it is the quiet surrender of your uniqueness because you want it to be easier for people to understand. Listen to me. You were not designed to be convenient. You were designed to be effective. You were not designed to be popular. You were designed to be purposeful. You were not designed to be explained by everybody. You were designed to obey the one who made you. If people cannot understand your assignment, that may reveal their limitation, not your error. This does not make you arrogant. Arrogance says, I answer to nobody. Conviction says, I answer first to God. There is a difference. Arrogance rejects counsel. Conviction rejects control. Arrogance refuses correction. Conviction refuses captivity. You need wise voices, but you do not need every voice. You need accountability, but you do not need approval from people who have no revelation of your design. Once you know who sent you, you must stop asking everyone else whether you are allowed to go. The question is not, do they agree? The question is, did God speak? The question is not, are they comfortable? The question is, am I obedient? The question is not, can I explain this well enough for them to approve? The question is, can I trust the manufacturer enough to function according to design? Your life will never operate properly while you keep asking spectators to interpret the manual. Go back to the one who made you. Go back to the one who formed you. Go back to the one who placed that burden, that gift, that vision, that assignment inside you. And when he makes the function clear, stop negotiating with people who only saw the packaging. Obey from identity. Move from design. Build from purpose. Because the creator who designed you is the only one qualified to define what your life was made to produce. Now here is where we must confront something spiritual. Permission seeking is delayed obedience in disguise. It sounds polite, it sounds humble, it sounds responsible. But sometimes what you are calling humility is fear dressed in respectful language. Sometimes what you are calling patience is procrastination with a religious vocabulary. Sometimes what you are calling waiting for confirmation is really waiting for people to agree with what God already made clear. Listen to me carefully. If God has spoken, delayed obedience is still disobedience. You may delay quietly, you may delay respectfully. You may delay with explanations, meetings, conversations, and good intentions. But if heaven has already given instruction and you are still standing still because people have not approved it, you are not being wise. You are being controlled. You think you need agreement. You need obedience. You think you need applause. You need discipline. You think you need explanation. You need execution. You think you need everybody to understand the burden. You need to carry it faithfully. You think you need the room to clap before you move. You need the courage to move while the room is confused. This is where many people lose momentum. They do not lose it because they hate God. They lose it because they love approval. They do not lose it because they are rebellious. They lose it because they are addicted to consultation. The enemy does not always stop destiny with sin that looks obvious. Sometimes he stops destiny with endless conversations, endless opinions, endless advice, endless checking, endless wondering, endless explaining. He keeps you circling around obedience until the fire that was once in your spirit becomes a memory in your mind. That is why this is dangerous. Every time you wait for people to understand before you obey, you train your soul to respond to men faster than it responds to God. You teach your confidence to rise and fall on human reaction. You teach your obedience to pause until the crowd is comfortable. You teach your faith to look sideways before it looks upward. And after a while, you no longer move when God speaks. You move when people release you. That is bondage. That is not honor. That is not wisdom. That is not humility. It is the fear of man sitting in the seat where reverence for God belongs. Do not misunderstand me. Wise counsel has its place. Confirmation has its place. Accountability has its place. But when counsel becomes a hiding place from obedience, it is no longer counsel, it is delay. When confirmation becomes an excuse to ignore clarity, it is no longer confirmation, it is fear. When accountability becomes a substitute for courage, it is no longer accountability, it is captivity. There comes a point where asking one more person is not wisdom, it is unbelief. There comes a point where explaining one more time is not communication, it is insecurity. There comes a point where waiting for one more sign is not spirituality, it is resistance. Delayed obedience costs more than you think. It costs time, it costs momentum, it costs confidence, it costs authority. The longer you postpone what God instructed, the easier it becomes to doubt what God said. Delay makes clarity look blurry. Delay makes courage become weak. Delay makes the assignment feel heavier than it was when God first gave it to you. So stop waiting for universal agreement. You will not get it. Stop waiting for everyone to celebrate your obedience. They will not. Stop waiting for fearful people to bless a faith decision. They cannot. Your assignment was never designed to be carried by public consensus. It was designed to be carried by conviction. If God has made it clear, move with humility, but move with counsel, but move with discipline, but move. Do not sit at the gate of obedience begging observers to authorize what the king has already commanded. Your life is too valuable, your time is too short, and your assignment is too important to keep delaying destiny because people have not agreed with God. And when you move, learn how to move without making noise for attention. Silence is not weakness. Silence is government. Silence means your spirit is under command. Silence means your emotions do not have permission to publish everything God is processing in private. Silence means your assignment is leading you, not your insecurity. Weak people explain everything because they need approval. Disciplined people move quietly because they are governed by assignment. Weak people need everybody to know what they are doing so they can feel important. Disciplined people understand that importance is not proven by announcement. It is proven by completion. Noise is the language of insecurity. Fruit is the language of authority. Stop thinking silence means you have nothing to say. Sometimes silence means what you are carrying is too sacred for careless ears. Sometimes silence means you have grown enough to stop handing your future to people who only know your past. Sometimes silence means you are not confused, you are focused, you are not hiding, you are building, you are not afraid, you are protecting what God trusted you to develop. Noise asks to be believed. Fruit cannot be argued with. Noise says, please understand me. Fruit says, look what obedience produced. Noise begs for validation. Fruit becomes evidence. Noise can be mocked, debated, questioned, and misunderstood, but fruit stands there with results in its hands. When the tree bears fruit, it does not need to hold a press conference to prove it is alive. Do not misunderstand me. I am not telling you to become isolated. I am not telling you to reject counsel. I am not telling you to become unreachable, unteachable, or proud. Speak to mentors. Speak to builders. Speak to covenant relationships. Speak to those who have earned access through wisdom, responsibility, maturity, and prayer. But stop giving courtroom speeches to spectators. Stop standing before people who have no responsibility for your obedience and presenting your soul like evidence. Everybody does not need the details. Everybody does not need the timeline. Everybody does not need the reason. Everybody does not need access to the unfinished place. A builder can see a foundation and respect what is coming. A spectator sees a foundation and asks why there are no walls yet. A mentor will sharpen the assignment. A critic will interrogate the assignment. A covenant voice will cover what is growing. A careless voice will expose it before it has strength. This is why seeds grow in the dark. A seed does not explain itself underground. A seed does not argue with the soil. A seed does not call witnesses to prove it has potential. A seed obeys process. It breaks quietly. It stretches quietly. It dies to one form quietly so it can emerge in another form visibly. And for a season, it looks like nothing is happening. But nothing is happening above because everything important is happening beneath. You must respect the beneath. You must honor the hidden place. You must stop despising the season where God is building roots instead of giving you applause. Roots do not clap. Roots do not trend. Roots do not impress spectators. But roots determine whether the fruit will survive the storm. If you expose the seed too early, you do not prove faith. You interrupt process. Some dreams die because they were discussed more than they were developed. Some assignments lose strength because the person carrying them kept announcing what should have been cultivated. They talked more than they prayed. They posted more than they prepared. They explained more than they executed. They gave language to a thing that had not yet grown enough to handle opposition. Premature exposure is dangerous. A baby can be alive and still not ready for the open air. A vision can be from God and still need protection. A calling can be real and still need maturity. Do not confuse authenticity with readiness. Just because God gave it to you does not mean everybody gets access to it today. Some things are holy before they are public. Some things are real before they are visible. Some things are powerful before they are explainable. Guard your process like your life depends on it, because it does. Protect the assignment until fruit is strong enough to speak for itself. Let them wonder. Let them misunderstand. Let them assume. Let them talk. You keep building. You keep obeying. You keep developing roots in the dark. When the evidence breaks the surface, you will not need to beg them to believe. Your fruit will testify. Now here is the next discipline. Not everyone who questions you deserves an answer. Some of you have been exhausting yourself trying to satisfy curiosity that was never connected to your calling. You think every question is an assignment. It is not. You think every person who asks deserves access. They do not. You think silence makes you rude. It does not. Sometimes silence means you have finally become mature enough to steward what God gave you. Boundaries are not bitterness. Boundaries are not arrogance. Boundaries are not isolation. Boundaries are stewardship. Boundaries mean you understand that your peace has value, your focus has value, your energy has value, and your assignment has value. A boundary is not you saying, I hate you. A boundary is you saying, I cannot let your confusion govern my obedience. That is not pride, that is discipline. You must learn the difference between a question and an interrogation. A sincere question seeks understanding. A controlling question seeks permission rights. A sincere question comes with humility. A controlling question comes with suspicion. A sincere question wants clarity. A controlling question wants authority. And if you are not careful, you will spend your whole life answering people who are not trying to understand you. They are trying to manage you. Stop giving kingdom energy to people committed to misunderstanding you. Stop pouring sacred oil into arguments that have no purpose. Stop explaining your obedience to people who have already decided that your assignment is too much, too strange, too uncomfortable, too inconvenient. You cannot convince a closed mind by opening your whole soul. You cannot answer rebellion into agreement. You cannot explain enough to make fear become faith. This is where emotional discipline matters. Just because they ask does not mean you answer. Just because they accuse does not mean you defend. Just because they misunderstand does not mean you stop building to translate your assignment into language their insecurity can accept. Some questions are traps. Some conversations are distractions. Some debates are delays wearing the clothing of concern. Counsel comes with wisdom. Commentary comes with noise. Counsel has responsibility. Commentary has opinion. Counsel says, let me help you protect what God is building. Commentary says, let me tell you how I feel about what I do not understand. Counsel costs the giver something. Commentary costs nothing. That is why everybody has commentary, but few people carry counsel. Do not confuse volume with value. Do not confuse curiosity with qualification. Here is the rule. Answer what serves purpose, clarify what protects peace, and release what only feeds argument. If the answer will help the assignment, give it. If the clarification will protect peace, speak it. But if the conversation only feeds argument, releases anxiety, and pulls you out of obedience, let it go. You are not responsible for satisfying every person's curiosity. You are responsible for obeying your assignment. Let them have questions, let them have opinions, let them have their theories. You keep your spirit clean. You keep your focus sharp. You keep your hands on the work. Boundaries are sacred because purpose is sacred. Do not hand your peace to people who only came to disturb it. Do not surrender your focus to people who only came to inspect it. Protect the assignment. Protect your obedience. Protect your inner government. Everybody who questions you does not deserve an answer. Some people deserve your silence, and God deserves your obedience. And this is why the people who need proof are usually not assigned to the process. They want fruit before roots. They want branches before depth. They want evidence before endurance has finished its work. But God does not build that way. God develops roots before he exposes branches. He builds character before platform. He builds capacity before visibility. Because anything revealed before it is rooted can be destroyed by the very attention it was begging to receive. Stop thinking obscurity means rejection. You are not being ignored. You are being formed. You are not being punished. You are being prepared. You are not being hidden because you have no value. You are being hidden because what God placed in you has too much value to be exposed to premature applause. Applause can corrupt what pressure was supposed to purify. Attention can inflate what discipline was supposed to mature. Visibility can destroy a person who has not yet developed the character to survive being seen. Some of you are frustrated because people do not see what God is doing in you. Good, let them not see it yet. If they see it too early, they may speak to it too soon. If they praise it too early, you may start performing instead of preparing. If they criticize it too early, you may abandon what God was still forming. The hidden place protects you from both premature applause and premature attack. Proof demanding people are dangerous because they ask for evidence from a process that is still in formation. They want you to show them the harvest while God is still dealing with the soil. They want you to explain the building while God is still strengthening the foundation. They want you to prove the calling while God is still shaping the person who must carry it. But public proof requires private depth. If the depth is not there, the proof will become pressure. Even Jesus managed access. He loved the multitude, but he did not give the multitude the same access. He gave the 12, and even among the 12, there were moments when only a few came closer. Proximity was managed by purpose, not popularity. Access was not equal because assignment was not equal. So why do you think everybody around you deserves the same window into what God is forming in you? Do not let people pressure you into revealing what God is still developing. Do not let their demand for proof pull you out of the place of preparation. If they are not assigned to the process, they will misunderstand the mess. They will look at the breaking and call it failure. They will look at the silence and call it weakness. They will look at the delay and call it confusion. But what they call delay, God may be using as development. If the assignment is real, it can survive being unseen. If the calling is real, it can survive being misunderstood. If the vision is real, it can survive being underestimated. You do not need to drag it into public view to prove it is alive. Seeds are alive before anybody sees branches. Foundations are important before anybody sees walls. Character is forming before anybody claps. So stay in the hidden place until God releases you. Keep obeying when they do not notice. Keep preparing when they do not understand. Keep growing roots where applause cannot reach you. The proof will come, but it must come from depth, not desperation. Let God finish the private work. Public fruit is coming, but private depth must come first. Now hear me carefully. Their disagreement cannot cancel your dominion. Dominion is not control over people. Dominion is government over what God assigned to you. It is governing your gift, governing your time, governing your words, governing your emotions, governing your obedience. Dominion begins when your spirit stops being managed by everybody else's reaction. You were not given authority so you could dominate people. You were given authority so fear would stop dominating you. You cannot walk in dominion while asking fear for permission. If every disagreement can stop you, then you have made people governors over territory God assigned to your stewardship. That is bondage. That is not sensitivity. That is not kindness. That is not humility. When another person's opinion has the power to paralyze your obedience, you have transferred authority. You may still be gifted, but you are not governing. You may still be called, but you are not standing. You may still have vision, but you are letting the weather in somebody else's emotions determine whether you build. Leaders do not move by crowd temperature. Leaders move by conviction, wisdom, and assignment. A leader can listen without surrendering. A leader can receive counsel without becoming controlled. A leader can respect people without becoming ruled by people. Immaturity needs everybody smiling before it can take a step. Maturity can obey God with tears in its eyes and opposition in the room. Stop confusing being liked with being responsible. You were not born to be liked by everybody. You were born to fulfill an assignment. If they like you, fine. If they understand you, fine. If they support you, fine. But your obedience cannot be held hostage by their agreement. The world is not waiting for a version of you that offends nobody. The world is waiting for the fruit of what God placed inside you. Every time you shrink your assignment to fit someone else's approval, you rob the world. You rob the people who needed your courage. You rob the generation that needed your obedience. You rob the territory God assigned you to influence. You rob your own future of the fruit that only consistency could have produced. Shrinking feels safe, but it is expensive. Approval feels comfortable, but it can cost destiny. So stop apologizing for clarity. Stop making your assignments smaller so insecure people can feel larger. Stop lowering your voice every time conviction rises in your spirit. Stop asking fear whether faith is allowed to move. Fear will never give faith permission. Fear will always tell you to wait, explain, delay, consult, reconsider, and make everybody comfortable. That is how fear governs. It does not always shout. Sometimes fear whispers reasonable excuses until obedience becomes postponed indefinitely. But dominion says, I will do what I was designed to do. Dominion says, I will not let anxiety manage my assignment. Dominion says, I will not let their disagreement become my instruction. Dominion says, I belong to the manufacturer, and I must function according to design. This is not arrogance. This is responsibility. Arrogance refuses to listen. Responsibility refuses to be ruled. Arrogance says, I need no wisdom. Responsibility says, I will receive wisdom without surrendering obedience. There is a difference. Do not let people shame you out of authority by calling conviction pride. Sometimes what they call pride is simply your refusal to be manipulated. You have work to do. Govern your gift. Stop wasting it in arguments. Govern your time. Stop spending it in conversations that produce no fruit. Govern your words. Stop explaining sacred instructions to careless ears. Govern your obedience. Stop letting hesitation sit on the throne of your life. If God gave you the territory, stand in it. If God gave you the burden, carry it. If God gave you the vision, build it. If God gave you the instruction, obey it. Their disagreement may be loud, but it is not sovereign. Their opinion may be emotional, but it is not eternal. Their discomfort may be real, but it is not your master. From this point forward, move like someone under authority. Not under pressure, not under approval, not under fear, under authority. Build with discipline, speak with restraint, work with consistency, obey with clean hands and a steady heart. Let them disagree if they must. Let them misunderstand if they choose. Let them withhold applause if they want. Your dominion was never dependent on their permission. And now your answer must become visible, not louder, visible. The next level is not another explanation. The next level is cleaner execution. You have talked enough. You have defended enough. You have tried to make them understand enough. Now put your hands back on the work and let obedience produce evidence. People can debate your words, but they cannot permanently deny your fruit. They can question your motive. They can misread your silence. They can criticize your process. They can laugh at your beginning. But when consistency becomes fruit, the argument begins to lose oxygen. Fruit has a voice. Fruit preaches without begging. Fruit explains without panic. Fruit stands in the room and says, God was in this. Stop trying to win with announcements. Announcements are cheap. Evidence is expensive. Anybody can announce a vision. Anybody can talk about purpose. Anybody can tell people what God said. But discipline is where the assignment becomes flesh. Discipline is where the invisible becomes visible. Discipline is where conviction stops being an idea and starts becoming a life. Work when your emotions are unstable. Build when applause is absent. Obey when critics are present. Continue when nobody claps. That is maturity. That is government. That is how fruit is formed. Fruit does not appear because you felt inspired one afternoon. Fruit comes from repeated obedience, repeated discipline, repeated sacrifice, repeated focus, repeated decisions when nobody is watching and nobody is celebrating. Do not turn obedience into performance spirituality. Do not build just to prove them wrong. Do not pray just so people can see your seriousness. Do not serve just to defend your calling. Do not make your assignment a stage where you act out your need to be believed. That is still bondage. If you are only obeying because critics are watching, critics are still governing you. Build because God assigned it. Serve because God required it. Sow because the manufacturer designed you to produce. Obey because heaven gave the instruction. The goal is not to impress doubters. The goal is to fulfill purpose. Their disbelief may be present, but it must not become your fuel. God is your source. Assignment is your focus. Fruit is your explanation. One day, what you built quietly will answer what you could not explain publicly. One day, the consistency will make sense. One day, the roots will reveal themselves through branches. One day, the discipline will speak louder than the accusations. One day, the fruit will explain what your mouth could never prove. So keep going, keep sowing, keep building, keep serving, keep becoming. Do not stop every 5 minutes to interpret your obedience to people who are not helping you carry it. Stay faithful long enough for the evidence to mature. Let your life become the statement. Let your work become the witness. Let your fruit become the explanation. And that is where you must make a decision. Not later. Not when everybody understands. Not when every critic becomes quiet. Not when every family member agrees, every friend celebrates, and every voice around you finally says, now you may go. No. From today forward, obey without begging. You have heard the progression. God authorized the assignment. Your design confirms your function. Permission seeking delays obedience. Silence protects the process. Boundaries guard your peace. Fruit becomes the final witness. That is not just a sermon, that is government for your life. That is how you stop living as a slave to opinion and start functioning as a steward of purpose. Your assignment does not need their permission. It needs your obedience. It needs your discipline. It needs your focus. It needs your courage. It needs your yes when your emotions are trembling. It needs your yes when people are confused. It needs your yes when the room is silent, when the applause is absent, when the support is small, and when the evidence is still forming underground. Stop right there. I know what your mind may be saying, but what if they reject me? Listen, rejection is not always correction. Sometimes rejection is simply the sound insecure people make when your obedience disturbs their comfort. Do not confuse rejection with correction. Correction makes you wiser. Rejection often tries to make you smaller. Correction comes to sharpen your assignment. Rejection often comes to shame your assignment. You must learn the difference, or you will keep shrinking every time somebody does not understand what God told you to carry. So here is your declaration. I will not submit God's assignment to human insecurity, and I will not confuse rejection with correction. Say it until your spirit stands up. Say it until your excuses lose authority. Say it until fear is removed from the throne of your decisions. I will not submit God's assignment to human insecurity. I will not confuse rejection with correction. Now make it practical. This week, identify one place where you have been over-explaining. One place where you have been defending. One place where you have been apologizing for clarity. One place where you have been waiting for approval that God never told you to need. Do not make this general. Do not make it spiritual language without action. Name the place, name the conversation, name the decision, name the assignment, then choose obedience there. If you need to start, start. If you need to stop explaining, stop. If you need to build quietly, build. If you need to set a boundary, set it. If you need to return to the instruction God gave you, return. If you need to stop asking fearful people to bless a faith move, stop asking. This is not the week to rehearse insecurity. This is the week to obey. You have spent enough time trying to make people comfortable with what God made clear. You have spent enough time standing in emotional courtrooms presenting evidence to people who were never assigned to judge the case. You have spent enough time translating purpose into language that fear can accept. Fear will never approve your faith. Insecurity will never authorize your assignment. Confusion will never commission your clarity. From today forward, move under authority. Speak when purpose requires it. Be silent when wisdom demands it. Receive counsel from builders. Reject commentary from spectators. Protect your peace. Guard your process. Govern your emotions. Put your hands back on the work. Let your fruit speak in the season appointed for fruit to speak. Do not beg to be believed. Become faithful. Do not beg to be understood. Become fruitful. Do not beg for permission. Become obedient. The manufacturer knows why he made you. The creator knows what he placed in you. The king knows the territory he assigned to you. You do not need to hold a meeting with fear before you obey heaven. And when the pressure comes, stand. When the questions come, discern. When the misunderstanding comes, keep your spirit clean. When the rejection comes, do not let it rewrite the instruction. You are not called to satisfy everybody's curiosity. You are called to fulfill purpose. You are not called to win every argument. You are called to finish your assignment. So from today forward, no more begging. No more apologizing for obedience. No more handing sacred instructions to unqualified insecurity. No more delaying what heaven authorized because earth has not clapped. Obey cleanly. Obey steadily. Obey quietly if you must. Obey with tears if you must. But obey. If this teaching helped you return to purpose, subscribe for more kingdom-centered teaching. And share this with someone who has been explaining too much and obeying too little. They do not need another argument. They need a reminder that their assignment has God's authorization. And before you leave, put your declaration in the comments. Write the truth you are choosing to live out. Say, my assignment has God's authorization. Say, I will obey without begging for permission. Say, I will not submit God's assignment to human insecurity. Let that declaration come out of your mouth and through your life. From today forward, your assignment will not wait at the door of human approval. Your assignment will move by obedience.